Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 458 to 459 for the 27th to 28th of May. And let's start off with, we'll go through by anti-clockwise direction and we go to the southern front, and we do not have anything to report on over the Dnipro River and Kherson front, and over to the Zaporizhzhia line. At the Zaporizhzhia line, the Ukrainian offensive still have not happened. The pro-Russian source Ryber talked a bit about how the Ukrainian preparation at the Zaporizhzhia front has been completed, and they are anticipating an offensive to be happening over the next few days. For me, I will wait for it to happen when it happens. No, all these speculations usually doesn't come to fruition. And there is reported shelling at Novosilkha, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. They also reported shelling at Novosilkha, Malatomashka, this one how to pronounce? Huliapilske, and there's also shelling reported at Mafopil as well as Shovone. So and then there is an interesting report from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. They reported that the Russians attacked VELYKA NOVOSILKA. They say that there's a unsuccessful offensive operation in the area of VELYKA NOVOSILKA, and I find this interesting because we haven't seen fighting reported at VELYKA NOVOSILKA for a long time. So it's the last time we do know was in September, where there is supposedly, the Russians holding some high ground just off Vremivka. So this is to me is a bit of interesting. But of course, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry do also call their own offensive Russian offensive. So that actually makes it very confusing. So not sure. Maybe this might be the Ukrainians actually doing their own offensives. So so that's all from the Zaporizhzhia line. Or the Zaporizhzhia front, whichever you prefer. Moving into the Donetsk front, at the Donetsk front, we do not have anything at the Voleda region. Seems like the Russians and the Ukrainians have kind of given up on the Voleda fight. And over at Novosilkha, we have shelling reported here on the 27th and 28th, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Over at Marinka, the Russian forces is still attacking on the western part of Marinka. There is still no updates in detail. The reports mainly only coming from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, with the past 24 hours reported that they have repulsed 12 enemy attacks. So moving on into the Avdiivka front in the north and northwestern part of Donetsk city. So this Donetsk city, and there is fighting reported at Pervomaiske, according to Deep State UA, as well as by Maroshinikov, the pro-Ukrainian source. They mentioned fighting at Pervomaiske. This is also reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So yeah, and over at the Zheveny region or north of Vodian, we have fighting reported towards Zheveny, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. And then there is a shelling reported at Vodian. This is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. This is a bit unusual because this is the first time I actually see the Russian Defense Ministry mention shelling at this region here. So I thought this is a somewhat interesting. There's nothing about Avdiivka. In the north of Avdiivka, we have continued fighting towards Novosilkha, according to the pro-Russian source Ryber on the 27th of May. They also mentioned that Ryber also mentioned that the Ukrainians actually tried to counterattack over at Novosilkha. So as the Russians tried to attack towards Novosilkha, the Ukrainians actually did a counterattack further in the north. At least this is based on their mapping. So tentatively, there is nothing much yet, but there is some extra information from the pro-Russian source that is, I think, is interesting. So they say that there's a 53rd Tank Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces arriving at the Severny-Tonenki line, where this unit was previously participating in the fight over at the Bakhmut front. And because of heavy losses, they were redrawn towards Kharkiv, and now they are reappearing here over at the Avdiivka front. So they say that this might be associated with a planned offensive. So this is something that they are tracking, and they thought that this is interesting. Personally, I do not track units, so I don't really care. Because my job here, at least the job I give myself, is a bit different. I try to tell you what is happening right now, rather than try to anticipate based on unit movements, because unit movements can be very deceiving, because you can call one person a brigade, maybe 99% of the troops are all dead, but you're still calling them a brigade. Just like, in World War II, Hitler famously tried to order an army group which does not exist anymore. Yeah, it's that kind of situation, because if you're only looking at the unit level, in the battalion level or brigade level, you get confused. You think that there is more men than it actually is. So yeah, I try not to focus on that kind of thing. And it's also the right time to press the like button right now, and subscribe if you are new to this channel. Moving into the New York front, we do not have any reporter fighting over here. This is a absolutely neglected place. No one loves New York. Just like, yeah, no one just loves New York. It is moving into the Bakhmut front. At the Bakhmut front, we have fighting reported towards Patashne. This is actually a report that I kind of missed. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported on the 26th of May. They say that the Russian forces is attacking towards this direction, and clearly, of course, the arrow is not this long. It's probably like that, like, yeah, and then nothing changed. The front line don't change. And over at Ivanivsky, there is on the 28th, there is a reporter fighting towards Ivanivsky, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. And there is geolocation of Russian forces in the southwestern part of Bakhmut city. This is geolocated by Deep State UA. Is around this area here. The video actually the video actually shows Ukrainian shelling this high-rise building area here. I actually also saw another video just before I started recording that there is reporters with the Wagner forces shooting over here, and they are looking at the at this area here, and also I think maybe from here. I'm not too sure. So it just shows that the Russian forces is actually in this area here. So it does. If the Ukrainians are anywhere, they're probably around this area here. And moving on, moving up north, there is fighting reported on the western part of Kromove. This is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, and as usual, as I mentioned in previous SITREP, the credibility of the Ukrainian Defense Ministry's report now is severely bad, because they call their own offensive Russian offensive, and now it just make everything very murky. It's very hard to tell, is this actually a Ukrainian offensive or is it a Russian offensive? Because I really don't like it. And over at Orikhovo-Vasilivka, according to Ryba, they say that the Ukrainians continue their attack in the northeastern part of Orikhovo-Vasilivka as they push the Russian out of their defensive position just off Orikhovo-Vasilivka. And the fighting continues on the 28th. This is reported by Surya Maps. Basically, Surya Maps basically reported the same thing as what Ryba has reported. However, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry still say that the Russians are the one attacking. So this is why I say, it's just very disappointing. So as a result, there is this huge no man's land over here. Because the Ukrainian lines probably still have not really follow up with the Russian withdrawal. The Russians are definitely holding a new line of defense. They are not just running away. So yeah, this is something that is happening at Orikhovo-Vasilivka. You can actually check out the quick update. I go into a bit more detail there. And that's all from the Bakhmut front. And moving into the Siversk front, at the Siversk front, we only have shelling report at Serebryanka on the 27th and on the 28th. On the 28th is actually an airstrike. This is reported by the Center Group of Forces. So they say that Sukhoi 34 fighter bombers bombed Ukrainian strongholds over at Serebryanka. Moving into the Kreminna front, we have Deep State UA reported that the Russian forces attacked within the Serebryansky forestry near Bilohorivka. So it's probably something like this. And they say that because of this operation over here, it actually makes the tactical situation for the Ukrainian forces at Bilohorivka more complicated. And there is also shelling reported within the Serebryansky forestry. Information coming from the Russian Defense Ministry. So yeah, that's quite uncomforting for the Ukrainian side. Shelling is reported at Dibrova on the 27th and on the 28th. Shelling is also reported at Toske, at Terny, and Yampolivka, all reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. And that's all from the Kreminna front. And moving on into the Svetove front. At the Svetove front, we have shelling reported as well at Stemakivka, as well as at Novosilkha. There is Ukrainian recon operations over at Novosilkha, as well as at Berestove. Information coming from the Russian Defense Ministry, and of course, if they report it, means they have successfully defended it. If it was successful, the Russian Defense Ministry would not have talked about it. Yeah, so and they are very similar with the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So nobody wants to admit defeat or admit their failures. Moving into the Kupiansk front, at the Kupiansk front, shelling reported at Tinkovka on the 28th and 27th, 27th, 28th. Of course, as by the Russian Defense Ministry, there is shelling reported at Pshotravneve, and then also at Vasyutivka, Novolinsk, Novomlinsk, and Borishna, as well as Krasny Pershe. So it's I thought the one at Krasny Pershe is a bit interesting because this is the first time I see this area getting shelled. So which means previously the Ukrainian forces was at Kayamka, so maybe they have changed their place to Krasny Pershe. There is still forces at Novolinsk. This area consistently always get shelled. So previously they was shelled at Kayamka, so maybe they moved down. Maybe this area is a bit safer for them to cross over. So yeah, so that means the Ukrainians probably are still very interested to try to cross over the Oskil River to try to do this amphibious assault, and then they can actually go into the rear of the Russian forces. And over at the area of Vasyutivka, there is some development. The Russian forces has successfully captured south of Vasyutivka. Information come from Deep State UA, where they say that the Russian forces succeeded up to 1 kilometer deep south of Vasyutivka. And on the 28th, Surya Maps also have reported, based on their mapping, the Russian forces have pretty much straightened the defensive line over at Lyman Pershe. Fighting is also reported in the west of Lyman Pershe at the area of Voshanove, which is actually a train station just over at this area here. So the Russian forces has successfully pushed the Ukrainian forces out of this area, straighten the line, and this will actually give the Russians a very good foundation to actually push forward and capture the rest of the forest line. However, the Ukrainian forces did do some sort of counterattack with recon forces being reported at Lyman Pershe, with the Ukrainians are trying to attack probably in this area here. The reason why I say it's an attack, despite the Russian Defense Ministry say it's a sabotage and reconnaissance group, is because the Russians always call even any offensive sabotage and recon groups. Only when the attack was pretty massive, like the one in the Bakhmut front, that's when they start to they actually call it an offensive operation. Otherwise, all sort of attack is all called recons. So this actually because how you know is because by the number of casualties that the Russian Defense Ministry report, it's a bit high sometimes to be recons. So anyway, that's all from the Kupiansk front. And yeah, that's all from the SITREP for the day of 458 to 459 for the 27 to 28 of May. As you can hear, my voice is a bit different. I start to have some sore throat. So yeah, a bit itchy throat. So my daughter caught it 2 weeks ago, and then she lost her voice for a few days. So I'm not sure if I will lose my voice in the next few days. So I hope not. Fingers crossed. Anyway, thank you for watching, and yeah, I will see you in the next update.